2021, 7:30 p.m. and I call this meeting of the Needham Design Review Board to order. I am Mark Lusing, Board Chair. I'd like to confirm that all members and applicants are present and can hear us. So members, when I call your name, please respond. Robert Dermody.
Here.
Nelson Hammer.
Here.
Glenn Karen.
Here.
Chad Riley.
Here.
Deborah Robinson.
Here.
Steve Tanner.
Here.
Steve. Can't find Steve. Where is he? Okay. Also attending our town staff support Rana Monerdorfer and Elisa Lichman. So applicants on the agenda, please respond when I call the project. I have 91 Chapel, 1451 Highland, 74 Chapel.
Yes, here.
Okay, have a 32 Chestnut Street.
Here.
Yes, architect Ted File present.
1024 Great Plain Ave.
Here.
Did I write the wrong address? Paul, you're on a different address, I think.
Yeah, actually.
Needham Revitalization Trust, Chapel Street mural,
Yes.
and 1688 Central Avenue.
Here.
Okay. Good evening. Welcome to this open meeting of the Needham Design Review Board, which is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. The order allows public bodies to meet remotely, entirely remotely, so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations. For this meeting, the Needham Design Review Board is convening by Zoom app, as posted on the town's website, Design Review Board page, identifying how the public may join. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. DRB meetings typically do not require allowing public comment. All supporting materials have been provided. Members of this board are available on the town's website. Public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by phone or video. Accordingly, please be aware that other people may be able to see you, and take care not to screen share your computer unless the chair approves. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. And I would like to review the remote meeting procedures for tonight's meeting. I will introduce each applicant on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will take comments or questions from the Design Review Board members. After discussion, each vote will be by roll call vote. The building department requires electronic submission of building permit applications. A copy of your application, stamped and noted for the type of approval that it receives, will be emailed to the applicant by the DRB support staff. That can then be attached to your building permit application. We'll now start with the first item on the agenda. Heather, you want to start with 91 Chapel Street?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you again. Hopefully I have three nice, easy ones for you. The first one is for Cuman, I think it's Kumon Learning Center. They just like to remove the existing wall sign. They'll replace it at the same size. It's externally illuminated. The gooseneck lighting will remain as is. And there's Sintra letters attached to an aluminum background.
Okay, pretty straightforward. When I start, any questions or comments, Deborah?
I think it looks good. It's definitely more readable than, at least according to the, looking at the photograph, than the one that's there. I don't have any problem with it.
Okay. Steve?
I agree with Deborah. I think it's fine. I don't have any problem with it.
Okay. Len?
No problem on my end. Looks good.
Okay. Chad?
Overall, the design looks good. I think the information provided is a little bit thin for what we usually like to see. There's no indication that I can see on the height of the letters. I mean, it looks about it right. It also, I assume that the K and the N have an equal amount of space left and right, but it's not really indicated. If you didn't have to have the little registered trademark thing at the end, it tends to look a little odd on the signs, but it's so small that it's not a huge deal. But overall, good sign. I agree. It's an improvement on the one that's there that is pretty low contrast.
Okay. Bob?
My voice, yeah, I'm on. My mic is on. Yeah, no problems with it. Just a little comment. The face doesn't look very happy.
You know, you're the second board to mention that.
And well, and I'm an educator, and I want my students to be happy. So
I
that's
think since you're the second one to say it, I'll have to give them that feedback.
yeah, just a little upturn at the end, but otherwise it's fine.
Hey, Nelson?
I'm okay with it too.
Hey, Heather, do you know the height of the letter?
I do not. So the overall height of the panel is 20 inches. I'd have to, I don't know, I'd have to guess 16 maybe,
I think it's less than that.
less than that.
Okay,
I'd say less.
just proportionally, it's about half. So they're 10 to 12 inches, which is a size that we've been shooting for and signage along that stretch of chapel.
Okay, I can make note of that and make sure it conforms to that.
Well, yeah, why don't we say 12-inch max?
Okay,
All right.
I'll just I'll make sure they note that.
I'll note that on your approval. I'll make
Okay,
that a
yep.
condition. Yeah. All right, so I would take a motion to approve the
So
application
move.
for 91 Chapel Street with the condition that the maximum letter height be 12 inches.
So move.
A second.
All right. The vote, Bob Dermody,
Aye.
Nelson Hammer,
Approve.
no, Len Karen. Oh, we lost him. Chad Riley,
Approve.
Deborah Robinson,
Approve.
Steve Tanner,
Approve.
Mark Lusing, aye. Chair votes aye. Len, can you vote in favor or against, please?
Sorry, I'm in favor. Sorry.
Okay, thanks. So it's unanimous vote. Next item on the agenda is 968 Highland Avenue, applying for graphic sign on the building. We had looked at this before when it was part of a different package, and now she's applying as a special permit, I believe. Correct?
Well, I believe it would be if it's for the size, correct?
Yeah. Well, in quantity, yeah. This is in addition to the other permits that have been issued. So-
Correct, correct. So on this elevation, and you're correct, we did talk about this in March. And there seemed to be some opportunity to rediscuss it if it was a smaller size, since they originally proposed the graphic at 64 square foot. So since there was some encouragement about rediscussion, they came back with the 49 square foot. There is opportunity to have it smaller if that provides a chance not to go for a special permit if it's allowed by right. So I guess I'd need to ask that.
Thanks, you can go out any door, you're all open. Thanks so much.
It would be, well, you'd have to get it down to 32 for a by right size.
That's what I thought.
Well, why don't we, so you want to just go through the composition again for us?
Sure. So it would be on it's on the front, on the Highland Ave elevation, and it's a non-illuminated aluminum graphic
Okay,
on the right side of the building.
okay. Bob, do you have any questions or comments?
It's on me.
Sorry. I'm looking at the drawing or the image sent to us, and we're given the size of the sign. Is it assumed to be centered, left, right?
Yes.
Top, bottom?
Yes.
So I was walking by there the other day to see the work going on, but wondering if there's going to be any planting in front of it in the future, or what the groundscape is going to be like. In other words, is it going to be blocked at all from view?
I'm not sure about what the landscaping proposal or plan is.
Yeah, there is some there now. I don't know that
Okay.
it will remain.
Okay.
But just, maybe I would still like to see it smaller, and if so, maybe a little higher.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay, Nelson?
If I can pick up on where Bob was, if there is room for landscaping, it would certainly make sense to put something in. I don't have a problem with the location of the sign, and if it stays low, there's certainly lots of different types of plants that can live without interfering with its vision. So I would just like to see something there.
Is again, okay, Steve?
I just think we have 4 equal pieces. It's odd that it's 49 square feet and not an even number like 48 square feet. But in addition to that, I think it is still too big, and it should maybe go down to 32 square feet and be higher.
Okay,
Lynn?
I mean, I'm okay with it overall with the size. The landscaping would be a great touch if it's possible, but overall, I'm okay with it.
Chad?
I generally kind of like it as a graphic element. It does feel like it's a touch on the big side, like, you know, maybe it was 3/4 the size. So I don't know what that is in terms of actual square feet. I kind of like the fact that it's more or less equal left, right, and top. So, you know, if it did get smaller and it went higher, that would make it might make the sort of negative space on the top a little bit smaller than what's right and left. And so I think just as a graphic element, the fact that it looks kind of centered, I think works well. If the overall thing was a little smaller, it might leave a little bit more room below for some landscaping. So I generally like it, but it feels like it could be a touch smaller.
Hey, Deborah?
I agree. I would just add that maybe if it, and I don't mind it as it is, I think it looks nice on this elevation, but if it gets a little bit smaller and if there are plantings under it, I might still have the top of it aligning with it looks like a change in coloration in the fenestration. Keep it aligned there rather than have the space at the top too small. Or is that just a shadow graphic of the overhang? Do you know?
I'm not sure what you're,
Okay, where the gray transitions to green on the window.
oh, yes, yep.
Is that just a
But-
shadow or is that actually something in the window?
I don't believe that's anything in the window, so
Okay, so
just,
all right, so that's not really
okay.
a line that we're aligning with.
okay, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't feel that strongly. I think it's fine as it is. I think if it were a little smaller, it would be fine as well. It's a graphic.
Okay. I find it to be probably just starting to tip over into too much, but if everybody's comfortable with it. If Chad, I did a quick calculation. If it was 3/4 the size, it would be 37 square feet. So Heather, if we just have that reduced to 32,
Hmm,
center it left to right, and then I think, does this work, Chad, to if whatever that left-right distance is, that also is the distance off from the top, that'll raise it up.
Yeah.
Or actually it'll push it down a little because it's narrower. Or we could have it align. Bob, when you went by, did you notice whether there's a green scrim in the top of the windows?
Sorry, I'm on mute. No, I did not. It's a bit construction site right now, so a lot of
Okay.
debris and, you know, ladders and stuff.
Any suggestions on how to place it in there?
I think what you just said, maybe, you know, center left to right, and then take that measurement and put it at the top.
okay,
I'll take a motion to approve this graphic signage, that it be reduced to 32 square feet, centered left to right, and the space on left and right be the distance from the bottom of the awning.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Seconded.
Seconded.
do you want them to show any type of landscaping when we apply for the building permit?
That's really not part of this review.
Okay,
We can't ask for that
Okay.
under this review, but I think you know the intent. If there's a bed there, you can certainly let them know that that was a consideration and what we thought would be a good approval.
Okay, I will.
So,
I don't think the chair shared this with the board, but for today's meeting, Lynn is moving the motions and Chad is seconding. Kind of like what we did in the previous meeting. So I think everybody else wasn't looped in.
Point of
All
order.
right.
sure,
Point of order. Can we just at least ask them if they're okay with that instead of telling them?
I did ask them.
Okay. I was not aware.
No, it's on.
They are okay with that.
Okay.
He asked very nicely. I was CC'd on the email.
Well, I wasn't.
Yes, that's why I'm saying
No,
no.
it's
I'm
on.
sorry.
Sorry, Mark.
Tough crowd, tough crowd. So we vote, please. Bob Dermody,
Yes, approve.
Nelson Hammer,
Aye.
Len Karen,
Aye.
Chad Riley,
Approved.
Deborah Robinson,
Approved.
Steve Tanner,
Aye.
and the chair approves. All right, the next item is 1455 Highland Avenue and 74 Chapel Street. It's Bank of America's location in Needham Center. We have two signs on the new proposal for the new facade, which is, we reviewed, I don't know, 2 meetings ago possibly. And was modified a little bit as they finished their review of our comments. So Heather, why don't you go ahead and go through this for us?
Okay, so this is existing. There are 2 sets of channel letters, 24 square foot internally illuminated, one facing Highland Ave and one facing Chapel Street. So they would remove those channel letters and replace with a new set of channel letters a little higher above after the building remodel. And the new channel letter set will be 30 square foot. Each set is identical. And those would not be on a backer. It appears that the signs existing are on a backer. These would just be a flush mounted.
Yeah, the individually mounted letters.
Individual mounted letters, correct.
All right, questions, comments, Steve?
I think the sign's appropriate. And so I have no additional comments.
Okay, Chad?
I think I missed the meeting where the facade changed, so I'm just gonna get my head around that, but I think the,
I can come
I
back to
agree
you.
with Steve, the letters seem fine.
If you want to look at it for a minute, I can come back to you. Len?
Good.
Yeah, just a quick question. What's the cladding or what's the material behind the letters on that's enclosing the roof? Do we know?
Yes, but I'm trying to remember. It was a metal panel
Is
similar
it
to
just metal? Okay.
the adjacent renovation on that PEX store.
Yeah. Okay.
2 colors.
Otherwise, I'm okay. I think this looks good.
Okay, Deborah?
Yeah, I was trying to remember what the discussion of the facade work was. But for the signage, I think they're fine.
Okay, Nelson?
No comment. I'm good.
Bob?
Yes, one quick thing, and this may branch off into something we've already approved, which was the facade, but I can tie it back to the sign and logo would be centered in that white metal panel space.
Mhm.
And just quickly though, in the renderings I'm looking at that show the new proposed sign, there appears to be a tiny sliver of the mansard roof left. Is that accurate?
I would say not, but I
Okay,
was
good.
not, yeah.
The shadow, I think.
Yeah, that's the
No.
answer I was looking for, Heather.
It's actually a pretty bad picture, in my opinion, of
Yeah.
the proposed, so.
But a good looking sign. So
Yeah, it is a nice, they're very nice signs.
That's clean, so I'm fine with the sign.
Okay,
Nothing
thank
else,
you.
Mark. Yep.
Okay, I don't have any additional comments. So I would take a motion to approve both signs at 1455 Highland and 74 Chapel as submitted.
So move.
Seconded.
All right, we come to the vote. Bob Dermody,
Approve.
Nelson Hammer,
Approve.
Len Karen,
Approve.
Chad Riley,
Approve.
Deborah Robinson,
Approve.
Steve Tanner,
Approve.
and the chair approves. All right, thank you, Heather.
All right, thank you very much. Maybe we'll see you next month. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, the next item on the agenda is 32 Chestnut Street. This is actually a site plan review. George going to give us a little more information, but I'll turn it over to you, George Scinta.
Hey, thanks, Mark. George Scinta Jr., attorney appearing on behalf of the applicant, Dr. Catherine Pennington Klein. She's with us this evening as well, along with Kenneth Fail, who's the architect on the project. So it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. This is the old Art Emporium space on Chestnut Street across from Copley Motor Cars. The Art Emporium moved out a while back, and Dr. Klein wants to move in there and renovate the 1,751 square feet of space to use as an orthodontics practice. So as a part of that, we have to go through major project site plan review, and obviously the board here makes a recommendation. And so what's being proposed is basically an updating and a refreshing of the storefront. As you can see on the materials that were provided, the plan is to remove the existing green awnings that cover the front facing window bays, as well as the entry on the corner. Replace the windows with new combination windows. So there's a transom space along the top, and then a clear panel on the bottom. That's a larger panel. And then put new awnings above the entry door in the corner, as well as the rear door in the back that's on the parking lot side. Then the sign band that's above the windows would be painted a blue color, or applique, make it blue. And on one of the windows, the one that is sort of the southernmost section, the clear panels will be treated with a translucent window film so that you can't actually see directly in, because there'll be patient care behind those windows. So it's pretty straightforward, and that's it.
Mark, you're on mute. Mark, you're muted.
I just wanted to note there is some signage information shown, but we're not going to review that at this time because there really isn't the kind of information we typically would have for that. You'll come back for that later.
Right, right.
Okay. All right, thanks. All right, why don't we
Right.
start?
Although you probably noted, it does show the sort of planned sign locations, namely above the entry door, on the awning above the rear door, and then a little sort of directional sign at the corner of the building with an arrow to indicate the entrance around the side.
Okay, well, we'll discuss it in the form of giving you some direction for your next application. Right, so why don't we start? Len, do you have any questions, comments?
No, I'm thrilled to see this happening. I think it's done very tastefully. I love the design. I think everything is very proportionate and looks great. I don't have any feedback.
All right, thanks. Bob?
Looks good. Thank you.
Deborah?
Looks great. I think the blue in the band helps a lot. The windows are aluminum windows,
Yes, that is
black
correct.
aluminum storefront, and those are set in the same plane as the existing ones.
That's the plan. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We are changing the color of it to be black though, but it is a storefront system, aluminum storefront system.
Then that band down below is a new band where that says hardy board at
Yes.
trim base compared to, it's hard to tell what that existing gray stuff that's there is.
It's almost like a painted plywood.
Okay.
And so we're actually introducing a small little curb so that the material won't actually be resting right on the sidewalk.
And is all the off-white getting repainted? Or is that existing in good shape?
Right now it's existing in fairly good shape. There might be an opportunity to repaint it, but I'll see that the whole building may want to be addressed in that fashion if we do that.
Yeah, I guess
we-
my only, oh, sorry. And then that's a new cornice, that's, oh,
that-
no, it's,
it's an existing cornice. We're just looking to to have that also painted as well.
that's just painting what's there.
It just aids it. Yeah, that's correct.
But so my only comment of what looks just a little bit odd to me is the awning that's just sort of so at such an acute angle. Like you'd expect an awning to be sort of either sticking out further or be more of a flat panel. It's just sort of a very shallow one.
Yes.
I'm looking at the corner facade.
Yeah, we chose that because we didn't, the goal is not necessarily the door is already set back. And so it's really more an opportunity to kind of create a element to signify the entry is what we're really looking for. And we really didn't want it to stick out very far at all.
But the small panes of the sort of the transom glass,
Yep.
there come down lower than at the other
Yes.
windows.
Yeah, because yes, that is true, because at that window right there, we actually, it's a 7-foot door, and we're looking at the transom to be a little bit more at almost like at 8 feet. And we weren't looking to put an 8-foot door in. So we felt it was more appropriate to bring down the transom grills just slightly lower.
Yeah, I know that sort of makes sense. I guess I still think it's a little awkward looking. I don't know, maybe somebody else wants to comment on that.
We could make the awning a little bit longer and actually let it come down to the height of the door. That would be appropriate, I think, in our point of view as well.
All right, well, we'll see going forward what the other comments are, Kenneth, and then we'll make a determination.
You can call me Ken, by the way. That's okay.
Ken.
Yeah.
Anything else, Deborah, this time?
That's it.
Chad?
On the repainting of the cornice, the rendering makes it look like the entire cornice is being repainted. Is that true?
I can't commit to, we can't commit to go past. I can't speak for the building owner on that. That would be a desire, would be to paint it all the way across. That might have been a little bit of a rendering error on our part. We should have stopped at the tenant line.
If you had, we probably would have picked up on it anyway. So I think my suggestion is that it should be continued all the way, so that it's such a strong building element that to kind of break it up doesn't make sense. It's not like an awning in a window. Overall, I think it's a improvement to the building. Well done. I hadn't really picked up on the awning over the door until Deb mentioned it. When I look at it, I can see that it does look a little bit odd. I kind of like the fact that it's drawing more attention to the kind of pilasters on either side of the entrance. When I look back at the art emporium, the entrance is sort of diminished a little bit. So, it has kind of more of a color and decorative element. I'm okay with it. If it did come out a little further, I'd be fine with that too. But I think just this kind of strong portal that is marked at the corner there with the way it's only coming out, only slightly projecting, I'm okay with. I think I'll hold on any comments about signage until we're done with the building. If we want to come back and just make some suggestions for when they come back next time.
Okay. And Nelson?
I like it a lot. I think it's one of the nicer storefronts I've seen since I've been a DRB member.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Steve, Tanner?
I think it's an excellent design, but one thing it does do, it changes the location of the sign band. It puts it way up at the top of the building. Before the sign band is where they have these 1/1 windows above the main glass area. So I'm just wondering about that. And I don't really have a problem with this awning, but I'm interested in what this little gray line on the bottom of the where the building's painted is, what that material is.
That's proposed to be like a concrete curb, so that the hardy board material is not sitting directly on the sidewalk and allows us to protect the material of the storefront.
So that will be
from
concrete?
damage. Yes, that's what we're proposing.
Okay,
Yeah, we're expecting it to be about 4 to 6 inches high.
yeah. I mean, when you look at a small drawing like this, you see like this new sign band. It just, it looks kind of appropriate, but the old sign band was like just really above the door where these awnings stuck out, which I think those awnings stuck out a bit too far. But, and a lot of storefronts that had glass above them like this now have that glass covered, and that has become the sign band. So I'm just asking that, just throwing that out there and seeing what other people think. But other than that, overall, I like the design of the project.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I would agree that the awning at the entrance does form a nice contrast. It's the only thing at that level that has a different color and different texture. So I think that works well. There's always a dilemma on a 7-foot door and taller transoms in the other windows, and how do you solve it? It's, some people might do it a different way, but I don't think this is enough that I would object to it. I like the curb and the lower wainscot panel. That'll be a nice improvement. George, I would ask if there was any discussion with the building owner about any additional painting beyond what this applicant did in their facade.
I don't believe there has been, but Mr. Graymont, who's the owner of the building, is on here as well, so he can certainly weigh in if he would like to.
Mr. Graymont, do you have we can't, we can only require things on this applicant's space. So, but if we use our little bully pulpit here and say, could you consider painting that coping for us the rest of the way so that the building has a consistent look? Yeah, you're muted, sir. You're muted. There you go. Well, that's fine. We'll move ahead, but at least you're aware of, our interest in that. Oh, there you go. That's okay.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, yes, I would definitely consider it. Yes.
Terrific. And as far as Steve, I guess I think that sign band that was used in that way in the transom level has been gone for a long time when the whole building switched over to the awning and naming on the face of the awnings. So it kind of, I don't mind the panels up on the top being the new sign band. Essentially, that's how a lot of the other buildings that we see are done. So I'm okay with that. On the rear, there is proposed another small awning at the door in a similar low, steeply angled, not a lot of projection, which I think it works fine. Again, it matches. Again, you might consider a little more projection. I think Chad mentioned that. I would go with that as well. But otherwise, others a very nice improvement. It'll be interesting to see what happens to the rest of the building over time. It was a pretty consistent look for a long time. So I look forward to seeing if this sort of has an interest for some of the other tenants going forward. We wanted to give you a little feedback on the signage while we have you. So Chad, did you have some comments?
Muted.
Chad, you're muted.
Let's count how many times we do that tonight.
Dad,
I know I'm on the scoreboard.
Chad, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. I think I was on the phone still, but my computer line dropped off and I came back on again. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
No. Okay. Yeah, so the signage on the glass, if it kept to under 200 square inches, then, or sorry, under 2 square feet, then it wouldn't be considered a sign. It probably is a little bit bigger than that right now, and having 3 signs on the front would probably be a problem. So if we could just keep that as a smaller graphic element that you see at a pedestrian scale, that would work. I guess one question will end up being if that door in the back is going to be an actual door where people are coming in and out, or if the intent really is to get people coming around to that corner entry. Again, having 2, when you've got the parking and a rear entrance, you're allowed 1, but having 2 might be a little bit of an issue. And so I think we would want to understand how people are coming in and out, and if both of those signs were necessary, or something could maybe just be done as a logo on the glass. And then I think the last thing is the fire department's usually looking for an address. So whether it's on the awning or on the door, somewhere there should be an address for the business.
Thank you.
Ken, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say the rear entry in our proposed, unfortunately, you have to kind of zoom really far in on it. We're proposing to frost the glass of that rear door. That is going to be an employee-only entry. So we'll have Katie Klein Orthodontics on the awning, but then on the door itself will be employee entry only.
Yeah. So I know we're not in a full review, but maybe having the awning for color and something on the door that said, for entrance to Katie, move around front, so that, and you have got one on the corner, then that might, and again, this is just like some feedback. This isn't a formal review, and this is, just my suggestion, but having 2 signs on the back might end up being an issue since there's already a third now on the front at the main entrance.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to comment on the signs? I think he covered most of the issues.
I concur with Chad.
I would suggest you take a close look at the directional sign and the size of it, and the alignment with the window that's around the corner, and some other issues. That, again, if you get a sign under 2 square feet, directional signage is allowed by right. So we simply review it for the design, but you get the sign is available to you. But that's a 2 square foot limit. If that doesn't quite work for you, you can apply for something larger. And we'll take a look at the sign over the back door, and whether there's some question as if it's deceptive if you end up having your name there, that people try and get in there and then walk up to it and say, "Oh, I can't get in here." So just give that some thought. If there's another way to identify the business in a smaller way than the front. Right, so on the
We'll take that under advisement.
So on the application, this is actually a site plan review. I'm not sure why this is site plan review, not a facade change, but at this point, the building inspector if he has any concerns with it not being a facade review, I think that we will send a memo to the planning board with our comments on the design.
Mark, it's actually site plan review because there's an existing site plan special permit on the building. Back in the early 2000s, when Mr. Graymont added the 2-story addition on the far end where the bank is located, the planning board issued a site plan review approval that basically captured, what this old section of the building was, and basically any change in use that deviates from that requires site plan review. So
Okay. All right. So,
Hey, Mark,
yes.
if I could just make one more suggestion, that as I'm looking at this picture in the back, it looks like those wooden doors and the cornice line are all painted black, which has a tendency to sort of disassociate it from the business, and maybe it has nothing to do with the business. Maybe it's for outdoor, storage or things like that. But if there was a need to repaint that, I wouldn't object to it being painted the same kind of bluish color as some of the awnings and other things. But if the intent was not to associate it with the business, I understand that too.
That's probably their dumpster, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Probably shared.
But just for consistency of appearance, even if in reality it's not part of their
would look good, I think.
And Nellie, should we discuss the 2 planters proposed at the front door?
No.
Duly noted.
Oh, there they are. Ha. Good eye. All right, so we will issue a memo to the planning board for you, George, and you'll get a copy along with the other just regular distribution for that. All right, so thank you and welcome to Needham.
Mark, can I make one more comment?
Yeah.
I just want to say a friendly hi to my friend Ken File.
Oh, there you go.
Ken and I
Bob,
used to-
go ahead, Bob.
Ken and I used to work together many moons ago at one of my first architecture jobs. So good to see you, Ken.
It is likewise to you, Bob. This was it was a pleasure to see you on the Zoom call. I'm like, wait, I know that guy.
Good job.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Yep.
A lot of water in the bridge between us right now.
Yep. Hopefully more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
All right, thank you.
George. Thanks,
No
Mr.
further
Awesome.
social interactions at this time, Mark.
I was going to say he doesn't look old enough to have worked with you, Bob.
Oh,
Oh, wow.
dang.
That was nice to him. That wasn't.
Means I age well.
Yeah, that's my board chair. Thanks, Mark. Don't put that in the minutes, Rana.
Thank you all for your attention to this project and the work you do on behalf of all of us Needham residents. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is 1024 Great Plain Avenue, Proud Mary Gifts.
Good evening.
Tim is back. So we
Sending the owners.
had an extensive conversation with Tim at his first presentation, and through a series of discussions about various issues, he modified and we modified their application substantially, I would say. And in the end, the building owner prefers not to do that. And so they're back with something that the building owner would, not the building owner, the store owner would prefer to do. So take it, Tim, go ahead.
All right, well, thank you. An initial thank you for all your feedback and all at the first meeting, but as Mark has indicated, after that meeting and discussions with Eileen and Karen, the two owners of the shop, we've chosen to go with what we think is a better representation of the style and aesthetic of their actual storefront and the merchandise and things that they sell. The other seemed very industrial with 2 aluminum bar frames, another aluminum bar frame. So we've gone, so we can sort of just take that one off the table altogether. And then Mark, you had suggested that I tweak a few things on our presentation. So did you get that copy and has it been distributed?
Yes, it's in a new package. So we have it. Everyone has it. I'm getting a lot of frozen people here. Can anyone hear me?
Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, you're back.
Okay. Yes, everyone has it.
The
Tim.
newest one.
It was sent out again this afternoon.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So basically, there's 3 applications here according to Mark. There's a facade change, which is the awnings themselves. There's the actual design of the awnings, and then there's a blade sign. Is there a particular one you prefer to start with?
Why don't you just go through the awning, the signage on the awning, and the projecting sign, and then we'll just.
Okay, great. So they occupy 1.5 storefronts. So if you're looking at the plan, you'll see the half storefront is to your left, and then the full storefront is to your right. The door that's below the smaller awning is used for emergency exit only from the inside out and has been frosted. And then the main entrance is obviously below the main awning. So we've chosen, because I know that white is not the preferred color, we've chosen a Sunbrella Natural, which is sort of a very light cream with their colors. And we've darkened the colors by 2 shades because there was initially that there wasn't going to be enough contrast. And we've thickened the stroke on both their logo as well as the flower. So we've took some parts of the comments from the last one and incorporated them into this one. The awning drop is 48 inches and it will be 20 inches out at the part that comes out from the building and 32 inches on the backside. So where the supports are. So you'll see the diagram. I think that's the type of thing you've been looking for, more of a diagram, a cross section of the way it will be built. It will be done with 3-inch lag bolts with Z-clips, 18 gauge welded steel, and then wrapped obviously in this umbrella. There is no valance for this awning.
Okay. And the signage, that's really sort of the graphic we first saw originally, correct?
It is. It's bigger. It's a little bit bigger than the original aluminum bar frame because the aluminum bar frame had to fit inside the sign band where this does not. And this is basically within about an inch or so of the size of the original Polywogs awning that was in the same place. And you can see that in the picture on the bottom left of, I think it's your 4th page.
Okay, and then the projecting sign.
So the projecting sign is, they used to be at 1110 Great Plain Ave. And that particular building requires a blade sign painted black and gold and a V-grooved flat panel sign that is above the main entrance. They're looking to use the same sign that was approved for the other by having it repainted to match their colors. And it would hang between the two sets of awnings. There's already a bracket there. We would utilize the same bracket and it would hang there. And then if you look at the diagram we provided you on page 4 on the bottom right, you'll see that the oval will hang below the front of the awning, just enough. So if you're looking down the way, you'll see the side of the awning and you'll be able to see the blade sign, and none of it will be blocked by the actual awnings.
Okay. I was just checking the list. Okay, why don't we get questions or comments? Chad?
Overall looks good. It's a little hard to tell. I think on awnings, I think we typically tend to try to draw a bounding box around a graphic element in all of the signage. And so it's a little hard for me to tell exactly how big the sign, if I look at the logo, Proud Mary, Life is a Gift, all that together, it's a little hard to tell if that's greater than or less than the maximum that's allowable. When I look at the rendering of the awning, it looks a little big on the awning. And so, I mean, my sense is if it's more than 32 square feet, maybe it should be lowered. And then the graphic elements on the smaller awning should match the reduced size.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions on the projecting sign?
Generally looks fine. I don't know what our exact dimensions are that we typically go up to, if it's close
Maximum.
enough. And
When it's a second sign on the building, it's a maximum of 3 square feet. So, and I actually measured that oval, not drawing a square around it. When it's a geometry like that, you know, we typically can get the area of that body. It's right over 4 feet. So we will ask them to shrink that slightly.
yeah, which means remaking it. They were hoping to
Okay,
reuse their existing one.
Okay. That's right. They're just repainting the existing.
Yeah. So I guess, you know, one thing is, you know, I don't know if we might have to, you know, ask for a special permit on that since it exceeds the sign,
Okay.
or if we can approve it and see what the building inspector says.
May I ask a quick question in the middle? If it was the second sign at the other address and we didn't get a special permit, is there something that we should present or talk about
Yeah,
in regard?
we'll work it out, Tim. Let's
Okay, thank you. I appreciate
figure
it.
something out by the end. Tim, is the square footage listed on the application page with the imagery? It says sign 1, 41 square feet.
That's the
Sign
smaller awning, and then the larger awning is 76.
the whole awning or the sign on the awning?
No, the awning itself.
Yeah. Okay. So what we're
And we're about, I think we're at 34 and a half or something total for the actual graphics.
if you did the bounding box.
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's 34.8 or 34.9, something like that.
Okay.
But that's for like from the right-hand edge of that flower to
All the way
the
to-
leftmost part of the Y, and then from Life as a Gift up to the top of the M.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see any reason that needs to be bigger than 32 square feet if it's that close. A little bit of reduction would be a good thing.
Okay. Nelson, any?
I don't know what my colleagues would think, but I would like to see the gray of the flower Proud Mary Life as a Gift a tiny bit darker to provide more contrast between the color of the signage and the color of the awning. It looks a little bit bleached out for me. That's it.
Okay, Steve?
I'm just trying to understand how far out this projection wall. You said 20 inches and I've, that section he has on the drawing, I blew it up, and with that angle that it is, I haven't done the geometry, but it would be more than 20 inches. And I'd like to know that it's going to stick with 20 inches.
Yep. It's,
Because it looks like it's coming out, you know, almost 45-degree angle.
So Tim, could you revisit? I thought you said 28 inches. Was that?
no, it's 20 inches out from the building. So the drop is 48, the back support is 32, the jut out side view is 20 inches, and then the overall drop is 48. If you look on page, just a side note, if you look on our neighborhood pictures, and if you go to the top left, Hearthstone Home is the last one to the right. It's the exact same shape and drop as you can see in that photograph.
Okay.
If that helps anyone understand how far it will come out from the building.
Right. We just need to confirm when a graphic doesn't appear to be what it says.
Oh, I totally understand.
Confirmation. So if it's 20 inches, we'll make sure that that's what it is.
Great.
Right. And I also agree with Chad that it looks a little big.
Okay.
The sign, Proud Mary.
All right, Bob?
Yes, I agree. I think if it's that close to 32, a little smaller will help it, and it will get it to 32. A little confused on the blade sign because I see what appears to be three different things. One in the red box, it shows it clearly under the awning, which seems good. But then there's red lines on the drawings that say to the top of the major awning is 138 inches. And then it says on another drawing, the red line to the top of the blade sign, 134 inches.
That is, my apologies. That should be 124.
Okay.
I believe. I apologize for that.
And then the rendering doesn't do it justice because it shows it's hidden by the awning. So that I'm going to ignore because that's a Photoshop issue, I think.
Yes.
And then my last question is, Mark, do we have a minimum height clearance for the blade sign? And then a question to Tim, do we meet that clearance?
Yeah, it's in the bylaw, it's 7 feet.
Okay, so that
7'6". So Tim you should double check that.
Yep, we're actually at just under 8 feet at the bottom.
Okay.
Great. All right, that's good. And you're reusing the bracket that's on the building?
It is. Yes, it should hold the sign just fine. It's already bolted in. It's a black wrought iron, just we've shown, and it has the eye hooks where we would need to hang the existing the sign we're proposing to move from their old location.
Okay, just doesn't look as nice as the one you drew on your plan here. But it will work.
We have the other one. If you want us to swap it out, I can swap it out.
No, I think we'll be looking at the sign, not the bracket, so that's fine. But I just want to make sure that it's clear, despite the conflict there, that it will be high enough and at the same time low enough. So below the awning and above the minimum required. And and then what happens to the sign band that's going to be hidden by the awnings? Is that going to be?
The landlord has already addressed any issues that we had the first time around. So any of the holes, everything's been caulked, everything's been redone. And she cleaned up her storefront, which is one storefront to the left, which was which is unoccupied at the moment. So she's taken care of sort of shushing that up a bit and making sure that it's acceptable and that we can do what we need to do. So.
All right, because they're different colors right now.
Yes, so the sign band is actually brown all the way down, and our awning, which is the smaller one to the left, will be at the dividing point on that other pillar.
Right, the sign band at 5 o'clock this afternoon was two different colors.
She might be in the process of still working on it.
Okay, fine.
I was unaware that she had told me that she had done what she had done, but I didn't realize it was two colors.
Yeah, it looks like it's been patched and cleaned up, but they are two different colors. But
Okay.
It'll be under an awning, so I don't think it's that big a deal.
We can address with her to make it all one before we put ours up if you think that's something that needs to be done.
I think it'd be more a tenant issue to have consistency, but I think the sign is clean. But as I said at the beginning, a little smaller, but I think it's a very clean sign. So those are my comments, Mark.
Okay, Steve, you had something?
Well, I answered I have no comment now. Thank you.
Okay, Nelson?
I commented already.
What? Oh, I
You
got
can go again.
How about that? Deborah?
Nothing else to add.
Okay. Okay, so I think it looks good. I think that works well. I think that those awnings have been pretty successful along that stretch, and I've liked them. I understand the comments about the darkness of the gray and the potential for it to not be very visual, but I did speak with this applicant, the store owner, and they very much want to try and use this. I expressed our concerns that it might not be as successful if it would be if it was a little darker. But at this point, I don't think it's bad enough that I would move to require it to be darker unless other members would like to. So then I think what I'd do is, as I mentioned, there are three applications here. One is the facade change, installing the awnings. So I would take a motion to approve the awning installation as submitted.
A move.
Seconded.
And we'll come to the vote. Bob Dermody,
Approve.
Nelson Hammer,
Approve.
Len Karen,
Approve.
Chad Riley,
Approve.
Deborah Robinson,
Approve.
Steve Tanner,
Approved.
and the chair approves. So I would also move to that we accept the blade sign as submitted.
So move.
Seconded.
And the vote, Bob Dermody,
Approve.
Nelson Hammer,
Approve.
Len Karen,
Approve.
Chad Riley,
Approve.
Deborah Robinson,
Approve.
Steve Tanner,
Approved.
and the chair approves. And lastly, I would accept a motion that the signage on the awning be approved with the condition that the overall Proud Mary sign, Life is a Gift, be reduced to the boundaries of 32 square feet, and that the graphic on the other awning be shrunk to match the reduced size on the Proud Mary sign.
So move.
Seconded.
All right, we come to the vote. Bob Dermody,
Approve.
Nelson Hammer,
Approve.
Len Karen,
Approved.
Chad Riley,
Approve.
Deborah Robinson,
Approve.
Steve Tanner,
Approved.
and the chair approves. So we will get these approvals stamped up for you, Tim, and get them back to you.
Appreciate it.
And
Thank
thank
you.
Karen for coming.
Thank you.
And as always,
luck.
we thank you for your
Thanks,
input and
Karen and
guidance.
Tim.
I also approve that the windows on the right be installed behind the car rather than in front of the car.
Yeah, you like that?
Friendly amendment.
You know how many times I tried to get down there without any traffic or cars to get far enough
I
back?
can imagine.
There was one day that a FedEx driver wouldn't move. He pulled up just as I was ready. It was clear. And I was like, oh, he's like, I got deliveries. I can't move. It was the biggest FedEx truck I'd ever seen on like a regular street, and it was blocked the entire thing. It was like, so, but anyway, again, as always, we appreciate your feedback and I learn each time. So we really want to thank you for that.
All right, good luck.
Thank you. Have a lovely evening.
So the next item on the agenda is Paul Good Revitalization Trust, applying for the design of a changeable mural on, I guess the official address is 1013 Great Plain Ave, but it's the mural on Chapel Street. We did look at this earlier and we reviewed sort of the installation and the mounting and the materials, and we did approve all of that. What we did ask him to come back with is sort of a template of how these would be done rather than getting a whole different sign every time it changed. It's a space that, if there was anybody who wasn't here, it's a space that the Revitalization Trust plans to use to recognize outstanding citizens and contributors from Needham. So he's come back with that and has a couple samples. And I noticed that they do fit into pretty a consistent approach, but I'll let Paul give us a quick explanation and we can discuss any questions.
Sure. Well, thank you all. we, looked at the, certainly took all the comments that you made last time and then looked to be able to incorporate the different elements into it. And I think the design is actually significantly improved in terms of its, as you would expect from your, good comments. We reworked it so that we would reduce the overall amount of space that it covered. So we'd have actually a reveal around the outside of the silver frame itself to add a little more contrast. So now the overall size has been reduced to 12 feet wide and 6 feet tall as the overall dimensions of the frame that the graphic sits within. Second is that we had been working on trying to be able to come up with a base template, as you all commented, that because we wanted it to be themed for whatever else we put on top of it. And so we came up, since it's from Needham to the world, we figured we'd have a basically an outer space view of the world from the background that would give us a consistent image that also wouldn't interfere with the graphics that would be placed on top of it, since there would be a variety of different things that would be placed on the surface. So we also took to heart that we didn't want to have too many elements in it. We wanted to be able to have the graphics in the previous one. If you recall that we had some text explanations beneath each one of the graphics, and we didn't have an actual story box. So we thought, let's just consolidate the story into a story box. So if people who are walking down the sidewalk can walk up and they want to be able to read it, they can do that. But anybody who looks at this from a distance, would be able to read all completely below the awning with the what the name of the person was that we were profiling, and the from Needham to the world element, which could be both read across the street as well as when people were walking up. And then the graphics themselves would basically just tell a story in themselves, so that the elements, if you wanted to know more about the elements, then you can walk up and read the story box and get more details, or just admire it from afar. So the two that we have here, one is for Bob Larson, and this was basically a reconfiguration of the original one that we had shown you, and I think it presents one of the things that was really fun was the fact that you can see Bob is in his uniform from an old photograph that was taken of him, and Seymour Levy thought, hey, what if I just clip that from there and then present him in the foreground so that he's almost telling the story. And I thought, this is a great idea, because you get to see him, you get to feel a lot more of the personality of Bob, and we're going to use this actually as part of the template of having the person who's being featured sort of have that prominent front element next to their story.
Okay. Well, I think it looks good. I like the story box idea. And you've got sort of a consistent pattern of the graphic imagery. They may change to a photo versus, renderings of what they've done. But I'll let some of the other members comment. Nelson?
I think these are great. It's a very nice idea. I'm looking forward to seeing it put to use.
Steve?
I think they're great also, and I can't wait to see them up.
Bob?
Great.
Very good. And a quick question. I think it's fine, but this is something I asked before. I think there's an awning in that space.
Yes.
So the height of it is such that I noticed you've done a good job. I think with the graphics, there's nothing really near the top that might be hidden. So I think it's wonderful. A great addition to the town center.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Deborah?
It's great. Really, really impressed.
Okay. Len?
I think this is wonderful. I'm looking forward to seeing it go up.
Chad?
Agreed. I think it's a huge improvement from what we saw last time. I like the consistency of the template. I would say for where the story box is, give some thought to how high it's mounted. We can't really tell from these renderings, but try to strike that balance that if somebody was in a wheelchair, they could read it. If someone's standing, they could read it. So it's not so high that it becomes hard for people of different heights to read it, kids and other things too.
Sure. Yeah, they tried, what tried to do is basically have the center line of the frame be about the center line of the box.
The story box?
Yeah.
Of the story box, Paul?
Story box, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, looks good.
Yeah, I don't know if that's like, it might work for my height. If there's if there's a kid or somebody in a wheelchair, can they still read it? I just give some thought to sort of universal design when it comes to the ability to read the box, so that I think especially kids reading these stories are a great way of learning about their own town. So we want to make sure it's not up above their head height.
Sure.
Good point, Chad.
Okay.
And of course, the other one is Sunita Williams, and we might have one of the pictures, hopefully only one, that we have to substitute for another Sunita Williams picture, because one of the things that the project involves is we have to have high enough resolution pictures to be able to actually blow them up to the size. Yeah. And as we go out to look for them, we find that sometimes the picture that we'd really like to use just doesn't have the resolution or the DPI to be able to actually to blow it up to the size it needs to be, since if an image is pulled off the web, it's not going to blow up to enough to be able to to be a good detailed graphic.
Yeah.
So but that's, other than that, I mean, it's basically going to go in, the pictures will go into the same space.
Yep. Well, my goal here, Paul, is to just get an approval of this format so that you don't have to bring every one of these to us going forward. So that's kind of, we're trying to lock you into this thing. So I guess I would take a motion to approve this graphic layout approach to to these sign panels.
Move. With
the one condition that they review the height of the story box. This is not a requirement, but that you consider the height of the story box and once you size where the panel is within that frame, so that it's readable to various heights from children to adults.
Sure.
So take a motion on that.
So move.
Seconded.
So, and coming to the vote, Bob Dermody.
Approve.
Nelson Hammer.
Approve.
Len Karen.
Approve.
Chad Riley.
Approve.
Deborah Robinson.
Approve.
Steve Tanner.
Approved.
And the chair approves and wants to say thank you, Paul. It's really a great thing.
Yes, thanks, Paul.
Yeah, well, thank you. And your good comments and insights last time improved the project all the way through. And now I think we've got a great template that we can use going forward.
Okay, thanks. Good night.
I understand that you just to be clear, do you want me to come back with each successive design just so you can review it as we go forward, or?
No, that's the goal here. We're going to set this format, and then you're free to, we know that the title will always be in the center. That's about what it'll say. It'll have their name and some description. You'll have the story box, and the images will, sort of rotate through in that 5 or 6 image system.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I think that's fine.
Quick question out of curiosity, not for our, not design review board, but Paul, like in the town, is there a methodology to nominate somebody?
Well, what we've been doing is actually we've been collecting. We have a member of the committee, who's has been doing the research to be able to bring in the variety of different people, and then the methodology has basically been, for the time being anyway, that we're trying to be able to do current and then go back into history and bring some of the people who from history, so we can have a mix of that type of thing as we go forward. And the committee has been basically vetting those decisions.
Great.
Do them.
Thank you. Sounds good.
All right. Lisa, should I do the minutes? Jump ahead and do the minutes. All right, so I would take, everyone has a chance to look at the minutes. Are there any, and then we'll leave the meeting because I'm involved in the 1688 Central Project. Are there any questions or comments on the minutes from April 12th, 2021?
Yeah.
Okay, I would take a motion to approve the minutes of April 12th, 2021.
A move.
Seconded.
We come to the vote. Bob Dermody,
Approve.
Nelson Hammer,
Approve.
Len Karen,
Approved.
Chad Riley,
Approved.
Deborah Robinson,
Approve.
Steve Tanner.
Approved.
All right, and the chair approves. All right, so I will turn the meeting over to Deborah, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay, and next up, 1688 Central Avenue, and Evans is here to present, but before we get started, this is a project that was presented back in March. There are a lot of people on the Zoom. I assume there are a lot of people on the Zoom again today, some of whom are not all that familiar with our committee and what we review. So I think I'd like to just clarify for starters who we are and what we do. Our committee is composed primarily of architects, landscape architects. We are an advisory board to the planning board. So for a project such as this, where this is a site plan review project, our charge is to review the information that's submitted, that's relevant to the design review board, and to make recommendations and write a memo to the planning board after we have our meeting. In terms of what is relevant to our committee, that's defined in the Town of Needham zoning bylaws for the design review board. And that consists of 5 items. 1, the preservation and enhancement of the landscape. 2, the relation of the buildings to the environment, which includes such things as the height of the building, facade design, spatial relationships, spacing, materials, textures and colors, roof slopes, scale, basically the design of the exterior of the building. The third, I lost my list. Landscape preservation, oops, sorry. Open space, signs and advertising devices, and heritage. So those are the 5 categories of what we look at. I won't list what we don't discuss. But this meeting also, this is an open meeting, but it's not a public hearing. And while we can offer people the opportunity to comment, as we did the last time, that's not part of our charge, and typically it's not done. And tonight we won't be listening to any public comments. I think people who have made comments and people who have included comments in some of the written materials that have been submitted, there's no need to reiterate those. It doesn't become part of our recommendations to the planning board. So the next forum, as I'm told, where people can make comments and be heard, will be the planning board meeting on May 18th. And comments there will be incorporated into the planning board's decision. So we will give Evans a chance to present the updated material, and we can discuss that. So Evans, if you want to go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I know it's been a long evening so far, so I appreciate your time. As the board members know, I assume we have submitted revised plans. I'm hoping everybody has them and has them up and can access them as we're discussing them. I do have in my own technically unsophisticated way the ability to screen share some of the things that I'd most like you guys to focus on. So if you'd like me to do that, I can give that a shot. Or if you have the documents available, I can just walk you through them.
I would vote for a screen sharing
If you can,
if people are okay with that.
Okay, is that right?
Yep.
Madam Chair?
Or, yeah, I think it's easier for you to keep us all on the same page, so to speak.
Okay, let's give this a shot then. Okay, so there's a few new drawings that I'd like to particularly draw the board's attention to. And this is the most important one, the one that we're looking at now, because although this is a landscaping plan, it also shows some of the other new elements of the project. This represent what we're looking at now is the most recent revision to the landscaping plan, and it represents, in our view, a substantial upgrade to the landscaping plan with input from the DRB. So, for example, on the north side, next to the temple, we've added a considerable number of trees along here, along this northern border, and we've staggered them as was suggested, and also mixed the types. So instead of just white pine, now there is a mixture of white pine and spruce and cedar. On the front side of the building, facing central, we've added shrubs along the foot of the building here, and also in between the flowering crab apples. These are flowering cherries at either end of the building, and then there's shrubs that have been added in between the flowering crab apples. Down here on the south side, we've again significantly increased the number of trees and also the distance over which they spread. Previously, the proposed line of trees was in a straight line on this side, and it only went as far as where my cursor is right now. Now we've mixed them, mixed the variety, staggered them somewhat, increased the number, and then also importantly, we've added a whole line of trees along here so that for the Heidmans, for example, or somebody driving up Central Avenue, there's going to be good screening of the entire building and not just the front portion of it. So those are, oh, and then another suggestion that was made the last time was that these three trees along the sidewalk, these maples here, that they were too close to the sidewalk and they'd interfere with somebody walking. So we moved those a little further away from the sidewalk so that they won't interfere with pedestrians here. The next significant change that you'll see here is two things that are related. One is we've moved the building back so that the setback is now 50 feet from Central Avenue instead of the previous 40 feet. We need to maintain a turnaround area here for fire trucks. And so that kind of limited our ability to keep moving the building back. Because if we move it any further back, we're not going to have an adequate turnaround area for fire trucks right here. But we did move it back, and that even moving it back that 10 feet did require us to redesign this area somewhat. And so there's a couple fewer spaces here. Both handicap spaces are over here next to the sidewalk, which is where they should be. There previously was one over here, and in this little island, and then there had been a row of parking spaces along here. The parking lot extended out here a ways. In order to, so partially because the building has been moved back, and that changed the structure of this turnaround area. but also because, as you are probably aware, there has been some very substantial controversy or commentary about whether or not the parking here is adequate. We have, and one group of neighbors presented a fairly detailed analysis as to what they thought the parking should be. So we have increased the parking to try to take away that area of dispute. We previously had 24 spaces. We've now got 30. And we accomplished that by having the parking area continue around behind the barn. That also takes any parking spaces away from this dumpster area. There was a comment last time about the parking space right next to the dumpster that was perpendicular to the dumpster, not really having an adequate place to back out and turn around. So that issue is gone. These are all fully dimensionally compliant areas, plenty of room to back out and turn around. And as I said, 30 spaces, which is more than we believe is necessary for what's going to be going on at this location. It also was done in an effort to alleviate any concerns. There's been a substantially expressed concern about cars queuing here. This is the front entrance right here, sort of what you might call the back of the building. This is the front entrance or the main entrance. And there was been a significant concern that cars queuing here to drop off their children will nevertheless back all the way up onto Central Avenue. We think that even with the prior design, that was not going to happen. But now there is clearly, more than adequate space for people in the what we think is basically an event that's not going to happen. But if it ever were the case that cars were starting to back up towards Central, we can just move them along and have people park in these spaces. This is far more space than will be needed for staff parking. So there will be empty spaces here and here, even when all the staff is there. So that's the major change to the parking. I've discussed the major changes to the landscaping, and then the other primary change to the building is, let me see if I can pull up the right. No, not that one. Not that one. That's the old one. This one. So the facade facing Central Avenue, there was a comment that was made the last time that the front of the building was too flat. The side of the building facing Central Avenue was too flat. And so in response to that concern, these 3 windows, which have sort of bubbles around them, have been changed so that they are now bayed, meaning that the windows extend out from the facade of the building about 8 inches. And then there's a small roof overhang above each one that extends out another 5 inches to break up the front of the building. And so that was, a change design element to try to address the concern that the building facade facing Central Avenue was too flat. So those are our, oh, and then I guess the other issue was the lighting. You saw, again, I think this might be it. Yes. So the lighting plan has not really changed, except that now there is going to be a lighting pole, lighting on the building here for this new additional parking area back here. Other than that, we haven't really changed the lighting plan. I find these lighting diagrams, these photometric plans, very hard to read unless you greatly expand them. But if you do, you would see that all these little icons around the edge are all 0.1s or 0.0s, indicating where the light will spread. The other thing that I thought was important to let the board know is that I've had substantial discussions with Pat Day, who runs the Needham Children's Center, which will be the tenant. And I was talking to her about her operating hours. And basically the bottom line is that Facility will close down at 6 p.m. Most of the staff will be gone by 6:15 to 6:30. And she agreed that it would be perfectly reasonable that all lights will be turned off by 7 p.m. So that's only an issue really between the months of September and April, probably. But in any event, that they will be turned off by 7. Nobody will be there. So that's those are the changes, and I'd welcome your further comments or questions. And if you maybe now should I stop sharing or leave the drawing up?
Or do you have, these are the only drawings in the set. Do you have a drawing that shows the overall site and adjacent lots and houses and street with the sort of the bigger context of the
I
adjacent
don't have
properties
anything like that that I
within
can
the site
share
plan?
with you.
Okay. Okay, why don't we, Nelson, do you want to start?
Sure. Evans, can you allow me to share the screen?
I think Clay has to do that.
Oh, okay. Clay, is that possible, do you know?
You should have the ability if you use the little green arrow button.
Yeah. Okay, I don't see the plan yet in front of me.
All right,
No,
so
I don't see it.
is up.
Well, could we go back to the colored site plan? I'll forget about screen sharing because I'm not getting myself into it.
Nelson, do you want me to put that back up?
Please, yeah, if you could, that would be, I appreciate it.
Okay.
Trying to get rid of this.
Is this the one you're looking for?
Yes, thank you. Okay, a couple of comments. Starting at Central Avenue, there are white pines placed here and here in order to provide some screening of the building from cars coming up and down Central Avenue. I think they will work fairly well.
You're talking about here and here?
That's correct. Yes, yep. I was pointing with my cursor, not realizing nobody else would see it. But for people who live across the street, who may be complaining that the view of the building is something that they would like to see screened, I'm not saying that you should continue the white pine screen completely across the facade of the building, but I think one or two large evergreens where it says proposed lawn on either side of where it says proposed lawn would help filter the view of the building in addition to the 4 crab apples that are there. So a minor increase in evergreen screening between the building and Central Avenue, I think would be very helpful.
Okay.
Number 2, you have 3 legacy maples proposed outside south of the sidewalk between the existing building and the new building. And the one on the far left or west of that area is too close to the building. Legacy maples get to be about 35 to 40 feet in width at maturity, and they would even they would grow into the building within 5 years after they're planted or less. So that one maple should be moved to the right or to the east in order to give it some room to move to grow. In the
this one right here.
That's correct. In the parking lot where there are stalls directly to the north of the existing building, there are islands on either side of that parking area with pink and white azaleas in them. Azaleas are relatively fragile plants, and those plants, particularly the ones on the right, which have parking stalls heading into them on from the east and then parallel to it on the west, they're going to get beaten up in that location. And if you don't want to put lawn there, then what I would recommend is a very low growing evergreen that somebody, if they accidentally step on it, they wouldn't kill it. Whereas if somebody knocks into an azalea, it's going to disappear very quickly.
So
Another
your
comment.
suggestion is something hardier than azaleas?
Not hardier, lower. Something that only gets to be 6 inches high, that there would be a ground cover, that snow could be dumped on it. I'm thinking junipers, a prostrate juniper would work very well there, although it's on the north side of the building, and junipers prefer sun, although they probably would get enough sun there. And then lastly, the parking lot on the far right or east has a 5-foot sidewalk between the parking and the building. And if a car is parked in any of those spaces, if they pull in either the front end of the car or if they back in, the back end of the car is going to make the 5-foot walkway narrower than 5 feet, and might even make it less than 3.5 feet, which would be minimum width for ADA. So I would either make the sidewalk wider or put a grass strip in between the sidewalk and the parking, so that there would be more room for cars to either back in or head in and still leave a 5-foot wide sidewalk.
Couldn't you also address that with tire stops? Just concrete?
You could address it with tire stops, but that limits the amount of room that cars would have to maneuver in the parking lot. You could address it by making the parking spaces longer and putting in tire stops. But I'm presuming those are 20-foot stalls, 20-foot long stalls. And most cars are 16 to 18 feet in length. There's plenty of room for it, but most people who pull into parking lots don't leave the bumper of the car in front of the curb. They drive in till the tires hit the curb. So
right. So if you put the tire stop a foot or two, the front of the car will overhang the tire stop, and
that would be preferable. Yes. Yeah.
And that will force the bumper to not overhang the sidewalk.
That's correct. Yes. And those are my comments.
Steve?
I think Nelson has covered most everything, and I would agree with what he's saying. I'm not sold on the tire stops. I think that's fine like that. Those are big parking spaces, and I don't know if that's necessary, but I think that would be up to the people who are building the project. And other than that, I think the project looks very nice.
Thank you.
Bob?
Yes. Yeah. How many cars can queue potentially?
So this distance, if you include queuing going up to about approximately here, like where you would turn, I think you can fit about 10 cars will fit here. If an average car length is 20 feet or 18 feet. I don't have the exact dimensions on this particular drawing, but I believe that you can get 10 cars in here without anybody spilling back over. And our expectation is that, the intent or the plan is that the tenant, Needham Children's Center, will have staff out here during pickup times, and including monitoring whether or not cars are backing up. So if that is happening, then parents will be told, and they'll also be told sort of at the beginning of the school year, that you may be told that you have to pull around here and park if there's just too many people showing up at the same time. But the arrivals are going to be staggered, as they are currently during COVID times. The tenant intends to continue that practice. So the arrivals are staggered, and I think I think the most cars that are going to be arriving in any particular block of time is 20, but that's during the entire time block. If in the unlikely circumstance that they all showed up at the same moment, you could have about 10 or 12 of them in a queue and put the rest of them back here.
Okay. And then a couple more things, and I forget if we covered this in the last meeting, but what are the squares and circles on the southwest corner of the building? There's 4 in a row. And then there's 2 more over on the east side of the building. The little yellow squares.
I think.
I'm assuming that's HVAC. I'm not sure. Let me see if I can blow it up a little.
And then is that a plant in front of it trying to
Yes.
conceal it
Yes.
potentially? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then I want to revisit the fence. I'm still want to say I think bright white is not the best color for this location, given the darkness of the building. So I believe if it is vinyl, there are other, not many, but there is a tan option I think would be more appropriate, or potentially a different material. And then regarding the fence, I understand it looks pretty clear that it's enclosing a playground to the south of the building and to south of the existing barn. But then the fence appears to continue and wrap all the way around the parking lot. Is that correct?
Yes, for screening.
Okay. All right. I think those are my questions at this time. Thank you.
Okay, Chad?
Appreciate you coming back to me because I wasn't there last time, so I'm getting up to speed. I think that overall the design of the building looks good. I'm not sure what the one facade looked like, but the bay windows look like they'll fit there well. I think Nelson definitely covered the site issues pretty well. Yeah, nothing else is jumping out at me. Nothing else at this time. Thanks.
Then.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, Bob and Nelson are tough acts to follow. That was very comprehensive. But I'll say this, I do feel strongly about Bob's point regarding the fence. I would love to see anything other than white vinyl going up there, especially for that amount of square footage. So if that could be taken into consideration, I think that would be huge. And Nelson's points regarding the landscape, I thought were just spot on. So those are my only comments. Otherwise, I think it looks I think it's well designed. I think it looks very nice. And other than those 2 comments, I am all set.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. I think I would say again, I think there's some definitely some improvements with the landscape and the parking. I still am questioning the closeness of the building to the street. In this neighborhood, it's still much closer to the street, I think, than other residential buildings, which is why I guess I was sort of looking to see the larger site plan again, or a street view showing how this will look.
Madam Chair, the only thing I would note in that regard is, since we have now moved it back to 50 feet, if you look down a little bit, you'll see that the neighboring house, Heidemann, is set back approximately 60 feet. So it is closer, but it's not hugely closer than the next house over.
Okay, I mean, I think that's still a concern in the context of the overall neighborhood, and and again, I would suggest that maybe if this building's going to go there, and there are pros and cons, that maybe if the barn doesn't have a use and that could go, the option of putting the building, either putting the building farther back from the street would minimize its appearance on the street, or else, again, making the building maybe even a little more scaled to be residential in its facade on Central Avenue would be an improvement. And I realize that's a trade-off, but those are two options that would be out there. So I think everybody had a chance to speak, correct? I believe so.
I may make one more comment about the fence. I know there's a desire to put in a vinyl fence, and there was a concern that tan is one of the only other colors available. If you can look at what I have on, if you could look at me, I'm holding up a photograph of a walnut grain color of vinyl fence right there. It's made by Reliable Fence, and it's sold by a Reliable Fence. It may be made by other people, but it's a much more natural and realistic type of fence to consider if we don't want a bright color. So I just thought I'd throw that out.
All right, and I just, in the fence topic, I'd sort of make a case for not using the vinyl, just because the vinyl tends to just be very, very shiny and sort of unattractive for that reason. And I'd be a fan of another material.
Well, when it's white, it's shiny. When it's darker, the shine doesn't. It's not as bad.
Yeah.
Just an option.
Yeah.
Deborah, I have another question if you're
Sure.
done. Thanks. Just looking at the landscaping plan again, and maybe Nellie, you can help me think this through. So if we look at the neighbors just to the south, when they look north towards this new building, there's going to be a hill there, according to the topography, from 199 up to 205, I think. So it's that about 6 feet. And then the proposed trees are at the top of that hill. And then they're going to grow up. So does that achieve the screening if you're down lower looking? Aren't the,
Are you talking about the south side or the north side?
I'm on the south side of the building.
The trees are at the top of the slope.
Yeah. So I'm thinking of the neighbors to the south looking north. Are they going to look under the trees?
No, those are
those trees?
PC. The WP is white pine, and those are foliated down to the ground.
Okay.
PC, I don't have the plant list in front of me.
RC, BS.
It's red cedar, blue spruce, white pine.
Those are all evergreens that are foliated down to the ground, Bob.
Okay, thanks, Nell.
So they will work.
Great, thank you.
And it's good that they have a variety of evergreen species there.
Thanks, Deborah. I'm good.
Okay, if anybody else have anything further to add? Okay, so we will prepare our memo to the planning board and get that submitted. And thanks to everybody for staying so late to get through all of these. So I guess if there's nothing else, we can vote to adjourn. I didn't move to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
All right.
Seconded.
Excuse me?
Seconded.
Okay, so we are adjourned.
So we have to vote.
We have to vote.
We have to vote. All right. It is late.
It's just been moved.
All right, so I'm just going by my screen, not the alphabetical method, just because it's late. All right, Bob?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Len? Len's muted.
That was a yes.
Sorry about that. Yes, yes.
Chad?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
And I say yes. So now we are adjourned.
Thank you, Elisa and Rana. as
Good night,
always.
everyone.
And Clay.
Have a good
All right.
night.